agenda meeting. The Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, if she so desires, will be led by Vice Chair Dolly.
Please stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move agenda.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We do have a special presentation this evening. I believe a proclamation will be read by Vice Chair Rakita Dotley.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. This proclamation is for the late Officer Clarence Hamler. City of Chattanooga, Office of the Mayor. Proclamation. Whereas the people of Chattanooga, Tennessee have been fortunate through the years to have been served by those brave and dedicated law enforcement officers who, in their efforts to serve and protect their fellow citizens, daily put their lives on the line in carrying out their duties. And whereas the city of Chattanooga honors the service and life of Patrolman Clarence Edward Hamler. And whereas Patrolman Clarence Hamler enjoyed a special sense of pride in being a police officer, likable and outgoing, he had a sense of self-confidence born of his experience as a street policeman, former undercover officer, and a graduate of Tennessee State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in sociology. And whereas Patrolman Clarence E. Hamler was a 4-year veteran of the Chattanooga Police Department, and whereas Patrolman Hamler was fatally injured responding to an armed robbery on Sunday, August 14th, 1977, sacrificing his life for many. Now, therefore, I, Tim Kelly, Mayor of the City of Chattanooga, honor the memory of fallen Patrolman Clarence E. Hamler with this proclamation and by naming West 35th Street from St. Elmo Avenue to Broad Street Commemorative Office Clarence Hamler Street. In witness thereof, I set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Chattanooga to be affixed this 21st day of June. Mayor Tim Kelly. So I wanted to present this proclamation as well as this commemorative sign to the friends and family of Officer Clarence Hamler for sacrificing his life for many. If it wasn't for him, several people would have died in that grocery store that day. But he sacrificed himself so that they can live. And so we want to honor him today. If y'all don't mind, if we can have a moment of silence. Thank you so much. And Mr. Green, if any other family members here from Mr. Hamler would love to present this to you today. And Mr. Green has been working with me for over a year to try to get this done. So glad to be able to do it for you finally, Mr. Green.
To this city council, I'd like to first of all say thank you. Secondly, on behalf of the Hamler family and Miss Susie Burke, who is his last living relative, who is bed-stricken now. She is not able to walk. She wants me to also convey to this city council that on August the 14th of this year, it will be 45 years that Clarence was killed. So we want to say thank you. Better late than never.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Green, thank you for coming this evening. We'll move on to our agenda. We'll take a motion to approve our minutes. I have a motion to approve our minutes. Do you hear a second? The minutes will stand without objection Tonight we have ordinances on final reading. Madam Clerk, planning item A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2149 Crescent Club Drive from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse, zero lot line zone.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1040 Givens Road from R1 residential zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is in your district, and without objection, I would like to offer an amendment. This is an amendment that is actually presented by the developer, an additional restriction that they would like to place themselves on this development. So saying that, I will like to move for approval.
I do have a motion to approve. I do hear a second.
All right, sir. And then I would like to move to amend, and prior to taking a vote on the amendment, I do want to ask, just to confirm that once I read this amendment, that the applicant is okay with it as stated. And the amendment is adding a condition 4, development prohibited on the north side of the water course within 200 feet of the eastern property line. I'm seeing a nod. That is in the form of a motion, sir.
Thank you. I have a motion to amend. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote on the amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries.
Thank you, sir. And now I would like to move as amended.
Have a motion to approve as amended. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries as amended. This will put this item back to first read. Final reading will be next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Madam Clerk, if there's no objection from the council on items C through I, I'll have to read these as a package, please. And I'm seeing no objection.
Item C, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 101 Cedar Lane, 103 Jubilee Drive, 5959 and 5995 Brainerd Road, and 5707 Lee Highway from R1 residential zone, M2 light industrial zone, and C2 convenience commercial zone to M1 manufacturing zone, subject to certain conditions. Item D, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to lift all conditions from ordinance number 13516, the previous case number 2019-0152 for property located at 603 Airport Road. Item E, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 5920 Pine Grove Trail from R1 residential zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions. Item F, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to amend condition number 1 and ordinance number 13672, a previous case number 2021-0030 for the properties located at 3698 and 3710 Faith Road. Item G, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1412 East 49th Street from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone. Item H, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to lift conditions from ordinance number 10349, a previous case number 1995-0293 for the property located at 2811 South Hickory Street. Item I, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 1300 and 1304 Bennett Avenue from M2 light industrial zone to C2 convenience commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilwoman Hill. Have a motion to approve. I hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Item C through I carry. Madam Clerk, under ordinances first reading, planning item A.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 713 Hamilton Avenue from ERM3 Urban Edge Residential Multi-Unit Zone to ECX3 Urban Edge Commercial Mixed-Use Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Hill. Have a motion to approve. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item B.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 3820, 3834, and 3836 Hickson Pike from R1 residential zone and R4 special zone to C2 convenience commercial zone subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. The applicant and I have spoken, and I have spoken with the neighborhood. Based on that, I'm going to be moving to approve, but I am going to add one small condition to the approval. That is that new and used vehicle dealerships shall be prohibited. And I have agreement from the applicant.
Let's move to get this on the floor for discussion.
Okay, move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. You would like to amend the Planning
Yes.
Commission, Planning Version Number 2?
Exactly, to
Yes.
read, new and used vehicle dealerships shall be prohibited.
And that is in the form of a motion for an amendment. I do hear a second. We are voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll now look for a motion to approve as amended.
Move to approve, motion to approve as amended.
Do you have a motion to approve as amended? I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries as amended. Thank you, Councilwoman Hill. Madam Clerk, resolutions under economic development. Item A.
A resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an amendment to the contract for sale and purchase with Melvin R. Standifer and wife Kimberly D. Standifer in substantially the form attached to extend the closing date from on or before June 30, 2022 to on or before December 30, 2022.
I have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item B.
A resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 22 STVR 147 for property located at 1716 Vance Avenue.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? I do have opposition. Councilwoman Coonrod, I do not have an applicant. I do have a motion to deny. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? Are you in opposition? You know there's a motion for denial on the floor. No. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion is denied. Madam Clerk, under Finance, item C.
A resolution authorizing the city treasurer to execute a contract with iGov Services for the implementation and maintenance of a citywide municipal property tax billing and collection software system for 4 years beginning June 1, 2022 for the cost of year one not to exceed $271,385 with a contingency amount of $50,000 for years 2 through 4 for an amount not to exceed $106,500 per year.
Dr. Burrs. Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Information Technology, Madam Clerk, item D.
A resolution authorizing the chief information officer to renew the blanket agreement with IT Pipes LLC for the purchase of sewer asset inspection products and services for the second optional one-year renewal term beginning August 1, 2022, and ending July 31, 2023, for an amount not to exceed $60,000.
Dr. Burrs. Have a motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Police, Madam Clerk, item E.
A resolution authorizing the chief of police to approve and accept a grant contract with the state of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security for a 5-month term beginning May 1, 2022 until September 30, 2022 for an amount not to exceed $51,500.
Dr. Burrs, I do hear a motion to approve. I do hear a second from Dr. Burrs. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, under Parks and Public Works, items F through H will take as a package without objection. Thank you.
Item F, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number W21012101 professional services for program management of the consent decree implementation to Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for year 1 of 5 with 4 annual renewals for an amount not to exceed $3.4 million. Item G, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew the professional services contract number W18001 for the support of wastewater capital improvements program for year 5 of 5 to the 19 consultant firms listed that submitted qualifications in the 6 different categories per their qualification package as follows. Icon Technical Services, Inc., Allen and Hulsher, Inc., AMAC, Foster, Wheeler, Environment and Infrastructure, Inc., Arcadis US, Inc., Brown and Caldwell, Burns and McDonald Engineering Company, Inc., Barsh Design Solutions, Inc., C2RL, Inc., CDM Smith, Inc., CTI Engineers, Inc., Folger, McIndoe and Associates, Inc., Gresham Smith and Partners, Hazen and Sawyer, HDR Engineering, Inc., Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc., Lamar Dunn and Associates, Santec Consulting Services, Inc., Volker, Inc., and WK Dixon and Company, Inc., in the amount of $10,218,924. And item H, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to erect commemorative secondary street name signs on West 35th Street from St. Elmo Avenue to Broad Street, designating this section of West 35th Street as commemorative. Officer Clarence Hamler Street, as Patrolman Hamler was shot and killed during a robbery at a grocery store in 1977.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Hester. Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Items carry. Purchases, Mr. Goldberg. I believe we have 6 purchases and 2 emergency purchases.
Yes, five because the
Five.
last 2 are combined.
Roger.
All right. First, from the Waste Resources Division, Public Works, we have a new blanket contract for mechanical services. 2 bids were received, and the awards go to H&H Brown and Acme Industrial Piping, Inc. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $3 million. Second, Waste Resources Division, new blanket contract for machining, fabrication-related equipment repair services. 1 bid was received. The solicitation was re-advertised, did not yield any additional bids. The award goes to Valley Mechanical, Inc. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $100,000. Third, from police, we have a new blanket contract for ballistic body armor. 3 bids were received, and the award goes to Summit Uniform Solutions, Inc. and GT Distributors. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $200,000 combined. Fourth, from Parks and Outdoors, we have the purchase of fuel dispensers and fuel system at Irwin Marina. This is on public property and publicly owned, managed by Irwin Marina. 1 bid was received. The solicitation was re-advertised but did not yield any additional bids. The award goes to Estes Equipment Company, Inc., and the amount is $47,198. And lastly, from Public Works, we have the second and final renewal of a contract for gloves. A combination of line item price increases and decreases were submitted at the time of renewal, resulting in a net 1% decrease. The combined annual amount is $25,000, with $16,000 going to Rolade Industrial Supply and $9,000 going to D&T Trucking Company.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. You've heard tonight's purchases. Have a motion to approve. I have a second. Questions, comments before we vote on tonight's purchases? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. We have no RFPs, but we do have 2 emergencies.
Yes, sir. So the first, during June of 2022, 2 payroll staff members accepted other positions outside of the payroll department. The current temporary staffing agency is unable to provide qualified temporary candidates for payroll. In order to maintain continuity of operations and payroll, the CFO initiated an emergency purchase on June 9th, 2022 to obtain temporary staffing from Robert Half, a firm specializing in staffing for accounting, finance, and related fields. The emergency purchase amount is not to exceed $35,000. The second one, on June 14th, 2022, the Department of Technology Services initiated an emergency purchase on behalf of the Chattanooga Police Department to replace 6 inoperable and obsolete public safety cameras. 5 additional cameras were purchased for inventory to ensure that we have replacement cameras on hand in the case of unexpected failures. The total cost for the 11 cameras was $182,465.09.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you.
We'll now move into committee reports. Let's see, Councilman Henderson. All right, Councilwoman Hill.
Body is going to meet early on planning and zoning, so we will have a committee meeting on the 28th of June, which is next week, to go over all of our planning and zoning cases for this month.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Smith? No report, Mr. Chair. Councilman Hester? No report. Councilwoman Coonrod? No. Councilwoman Knoll? No. Dr. Burrs? No report. Vice Chair Dotley? You want to give us an update and an announcement, please?
I have no committee report, but our July 5th meeting will be canceled. But to make sure we stay in order, as Councilwoman Hill mentioned, our planning and zoning meeting will be June 28th, which will allow us to have first reading on July 12th. So I wanted to make that announcement that our July 5th meeting is canceled. Planning and zoning, as Councilwoman Hill mentioned, is June 28th, with first readings of those items being July the 12th.
Very good. Thank you for that announcement, Madam Vice Chair. We are at the time we will recognize persons wishing to address the council this evening. If you'd like to address the council this evening, please make your way to the podium and our Madam Attorney will read our rules.
Good evening. Each speaker wishing to address the council shall be recognized only at the microphone for that purpose. The speaker may address the council only upon matters within the legislative and quasi-judicial authority of the council, and your remarks will be limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is permitted.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Get 3 minutes on the clock. Good evening, Ms. Mott.
Good evening. Mariemont District 8. Trust is the basis for all human connection. Trust is all-encompassing, physical, emotional, digital, financial, and ethical. Once a nice to have is now a must have. A principle is now a catalyst. A value is now an invaluable. Trust distinguishes and elevates your organization, even government, connecting you with the common good. When you put trust at the forefront of your planning, strategy, and purpose, your constituents will in return put trust in you. Trust has continued to be broken between government and its people, and it's past time to address the issue sincerely, especially given the consistency of catastrophe. It's time for leadership to listen, understand, and respond effectively to people in great need, and here's how. Take accountability. When mistakes are made and there are both internal or external failures, the public is willing to extend grace to you when you acknowledge what has happened instead of finger pointing and ignoring people. Move with a spirit of benevolence. Do you care about people? If so, that must be demonstrated by responsiveness that is tangible, offering condolences, encouraging words, next steps, and following up with concerned citizens builds trust and shows we are a priority to you in times of crisis. Collaborate with stakeholders. Let's admit that no leader is an island to themselves. The more people are in charge, are willing to lean into the expertise of those around them, that fosters an environment for ideas and innovation. Solutions are all around you, so be the coach who brings people into a huddle so we can talk strategy and implementation. Identify connectors. The more power position one assumes, the less likely they are to be connected to those they serve. The best way to make a significant impact is to turn the people around you into ambassadors for your causes or initiatives. Lead with integrity. Leaders set the tone for vision and values in an organization with behaviors. Stonewalling or ignoring problems by failing to communicate, according to Gottman's Institute, breeds contempt. Work on being transparent, no matter how hard. Address criticisms with response that includes actionable items. Thank you.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Ann Pierre, District 9. Every week, I look at the City Council agenda, and every week, there are changes on the characterization of the neighborhood by changing whether it's residential, single, double, whatever. My request to you tonight is to make a map of the city and look at what we're doing and how we're doing that. For example, in my area, there are just different businesses. There is a blood place on the corner now. We have people walking through the neighborhood. We've never seen people walking like that before. We've had break-ins and different things. So how you set up your neighborhood determines a lot of things about crime and other issues. The second thing I'd like to speak to you about is one that another citizen came to you about 2 months ago, and that's our city. It is dirty. There is paper everywhere. People just eat. And by the time they get to our corner, they've thrown out bags of whatever, McDonald's or whatever. At one time, the city had a campaign, and I believe it was called Pitch It In. We need to do something for these people who do not understand that you should not throw paper on the street. Or every day, somebody needs to come out and pick the paper up. So I'll leave that with you to choose which one is most economical as to what we do about our citizens and how we determine whether our city is going to be clean or it's going to be dirty. Because how you keep your city, how you keep your property has a great effect on what people think about us as citizens of Chattanooga. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Pierre. Evening.
Hello, my name is Savannah Guffey. I had not planned on saying anything tonight, but as I sat and listened to Marie talk, and while I watched all of you also listen, we've got two people not making eye contact or paying attention, and the chairman rolling his eyes at what she's saying. So I would say,
I have new glasses. I apologize.
okay.
used to them.
So it begs the question of your people are up here that live in the city who are on another plane of existence from you people. Like we go and we, a mile down the road and there are people passed out on the streets from heat exhaustion. They're hungry. There's, and then you go a mile this way and it's all the nice buildings and, everything like that. So while we stand here and tell you the needs of the people, I think that it's important that we open our ears and actually pay attention because it is absolutely vital to get any sort of action done that's going to benefit anybody. Thank you.
Yes. My name is Charlie Wysong, and I wanted to call your attention to the cartoon, the editorial cartoon in today's paper. It's I know you can't see this, but it's easy to describe. But it shows moral values written across the cartoon, and then someone with an eraser erasing moral values. And I wanted to talk to you tonight just a bit about this. God created three governments to protect mankind from the evils of this world. The first government he created was the family government. The second government he created was civil government, of which you're a member. And the third group was church government. And all three groups are to obey the laws of their creator, that the three groups are not to be in competition with one another, but rather allies in the battle to bring about godly order in our society. And Chattanooga has had a rash of murders, beginning with the 5 murders that happened in last October over on the west side. But murder is a spiritual problem. And I would encourage this council to contact the churches and call a meeting of the churches and suggest to them that they preach the moral values that are in the Ten Commandments to their congregation. Not even 1% of people who regularly attend church could name all 10 of the commandments. And then we've got the family government, which is in many cases doesn't exist. But we could, either by resolution or press release or something, that this council could encourage parents to begin teaching the moral values of the Ten Commandments to their children. And I want to leave you with this. This is I want to leave this. Could I pass this around this way? Could go that way? But this is a story that happened in Berkeley, California, where simply remembering the Ten Commandments stopped all student cheating. And it's a book called The Honest Truth About Dishonesty, written by a professor at Duke University by the name of Dan Ariely. But I'm going to pass this around. And just by way of encouragement, if we will simply do the simple things of calling people to the moral principles that God has laid down and made us accountable at this in our governments. Amen. Thank you.
Mr. Wysong. Anyone else wish to address the council this evening? Council, I'm seeing one other person coming.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is LaTanya Higgins, and this is Albert Beeman. I have came to you guys. I went to Mayor Tim Kelly's office about a year ago, or when he first came into the system out in Hickson. I have been to the county council meeting as well. This man and I have been stalked all over Chattanooga. Everywhere we go, we're being watched, we're being followed. My name has been defiled to stop me from getting a certain type of job or whatever. He's obtained something else that I'll talk to somebody else about. But our main problem is this man is fighting bone cancer, and all the unnecessary with the dirty cops trying to intimidate us and all other things going on, and we don't appreciate it at all. And we've been complaining about it for almost 5 years now. And it seemed to get worse every time I come and stand in front of you guys. It get worse and worse. So if you guys can do something about it, I even spoke with the new police chief about it. When I spoke with her at Evandale Center, same day it was worse. A cop was sitting in the middle of the street. I'm going to my job. He's sitting in the middle of the street by Montague Park. He would not move out the middle of the street. So I went around him. When I went around him, he turned on his lights. And I was like, I wish you would pull me over. Because I did nothing wrong. I'm coming down the street on the right side of the street. Today, he picked me up from work. Cop followed us from over off Main Street to Macaulay School. And I am not scared of the police. I have no reason to be scared of the police. So the little intimidation tactics, I came to you guys. Like I said, this may be my third time here. I don't appreciate it within the last 5 years. I don't appreciate it at all, and neither does he. I'm trying to take care of this man. He's in remission, and we want to keep it that way.
Anyone else wish to address the council this evening? Council, I do not see anyone. We are adjourned.
Well, I tell you what.